Welcome back, everyone. We were talking, Ron. So, in case most people, I put your resume and picture up on the Facebook, so most people have a good idea, Ron, of who you are. And just as a little background, everyone. So, Ron, in 2003, founded a company called Aligned Action. It was a strategy-focused executive coaching and advisory firm. And I'm going to try and make this so it doesn't sound like I'm reading it, Ron, but I couldn't remember it all. Your resume is so long.
I haven't read it in so long, so I'm curious to see what it says.
This is already on the Facebook page. Look, bottom line is, Ron is an incredible coach. He works with a lot of business owners, CEOs, executive entrepreneurs, and he's got a few big wig clients. And I met Ron, I heard about Ron 2 years ago from Steve Chandler, and then I got to see Ron in action a couple of months ago in Arizona. I was like, I got to have this guy come on the program. So Ron today is going to be talking today about creating a coaching fee. How do you ask for your coaching fee? How do you create your coaching fee? How do you practice your coaching fee? And Ron's going to talk about that and anything else that he wants to share in terms of his own journey as a coach and anything else, of course, that you might think would be helpful for, 15, 20 minutes. Take however long you want, Ron, and then we'll open it up to the class. But the conversation, we kind of want to umbrella the conversation around coaching fees, but it can contain anything, coaching packages, or anything else that you wanna ask Ron about. Ron, before we start, can we ask you, we've been exploring this question of, is there a right way to build your business? Could you share like your experience in terms of, is there a right way for you to build your business?
Yeah, I think the right way is the way that's in alignment with your innate gifts and talents and your purpose for being on this planet. And which is that I believe everybody is a unique individual. So I think every coaching practice is unique. So you can learn from, you can learn approaches and methods and strategies and models from other people. But ultimately, I think what we're all looking for is the fulfillment that comes from our own unique contribution, which means that, your way of doing it is going to be your own unique expression. So trying to follow a formula, I think of a formula or a framework as like a guide, something to kind of perhaps consider, but ultimately you got to make it your own. That's kind of my view.
Yeah. I wish I had said that this morning, Ron. I think I would have doubled my paycheck. All right, Ron, listen, we're going to hand the class over to you. Thank you so much for being here, Ron. I really, really appreciate your time and your energy and your experience as a coach. So I'll hand it over to you, Ron. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Wilder.
Hello, everyone. So I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, actually just outside of Raleigh. And we have beautiful fall weather here today. And the topic that I was coming here to talk about was practicing saying your fee. That's what Dermot and I discussed ahead of time. But there's a lot of context around that. But I do want to talk about the idea of practicing saying your fee. And what I'd like to actually do is start with a little exercise. It'll be very brief. And these are the only slides I'm going to show. So give me 1 second here. Let me see if, yeah. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to show you a slide and I'm going to read it to you. And then what I want everybody to do is unmute, come off of mic, and I want you to repeat what's on the slide. So give me 1 second here to share my screen here. So there we go. So can everybody see this screen here?
Yeah, we can see it, Ron. Good to go.
All right. So this is a doll Have you read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Or been to Wembley Stadium, which seats 90,000 people? Wow, my feet sure are sore. So what I'd like you all to do now is come off of mic and we're going to read that out loud together. So everybody unmute. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. This is a doll.
Have you ever read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Or been to Wembley Stadium, which 90,000 people? Wow. My feet sure are sore.
All right, cool. Thank you all. So just quick question here. Did anybody, in reading that and in saying those words and reading that, did anybody feel like anxiety or stress or pressure? I mean, other than like reading something out loud, but like, did you feel any pressure or tension or stress in like saying those words? Anyone? No, not really. You did. One person did?
Yeah, sure. Over top of everyone was a little uncomfortable and making sure I got it right, which is, yeah.
Okay.
The pressure there.
Okay, cool. All right. So let's do it again. Let's do it one more time. And just say it one more time. Let's just go through once again. Ready, go. This is a doll.
This is a doll.
No.
Have you ever read
20,000
Leagues Under the Sea?
Or been to Wembley Stadium, which seats 90,000 people?
Wow.
My feet sure are sore.
So, my intent on this is that, just reading these words or saying these sounds, I mean, even though it should not really create any anxiety or tension or pressure. Maybe there's a little bit about the noise, but let me show you the next slide here. And look at the words in bold. So if you look at this, and I'm going to start here, look at this. My fee is $20,000 or $90,000, right? So my point of this little exercise is that all of the sounds and syllables of stating your fee are like embedded in these like very just mundane sentences that mean like nothing, right? But the moment we take these sounds and syllables and numbers and we put them into a different sentence that says, my fee is $20,000, and you imagine saying that in front of a potential client, I don't know about you, but at certain points in my coaching career, like that would have made me very nervous. That would have made me very anxious or concerned in some way. And so why is that? So why is it that a syllable or a sound or a number in one context, like in the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea as a book title, I can say that and it doesn't really bother me at all. But if I say the same number and I'm referring to an amount of money and whether or not you're going to give me that money in exchange for me coaching you, well, all of a sudden that has a different meaning that we attach to that. Does that make sense? So the whole purpose of practicing your fee, and I can stop the screen share now, is the idea that when we say our fee, we are attaching some meaning to that in some way. And whatever your fee is, it could be 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, $1 million, whatever the number is, whoever the person is, when you're preparing for that moment in the conversation, we tend to put a lot of meaning around what is said at that moment, right? And no matter how much you practice sales, because I've been doing sales for a long time, you can have all the conversation that you want, but at a certain point, there is a moment of truth, which I call it the moment of truth, where the fee is stated, and then the client says yes or no to that. And so we kind of tend to attach some significance to that yes or no. So what the first thing I would invite you to consider is, as you're practicing your fee, whether you're rehearsing privately or whether you're actually in front of a real live prospective client, is to just begin to observe yourself and notice the feeling that comes up within you when you're saying that. Like, do you feel nervous? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel scared? Do you feel excited? I mean, what is the meaning that you're associating with that? And to begin to recognize is, how do you feel about that feeling? In other words, if I feel really nervous about a fee, what am I attaching to that? Am I, do I have some neediness there that that I'm, some fear? Do I have, do I want this client too much, for example? Or can I be kind of in an engaged yet detached state, right? So I think the first kind of idea around practicing your fee is just understanding what it means to you and in a given context. And we can explore that a bit more as we go. So I do think it's important that you practice your fee before you go live with a client, because you want to work out any of that nervousness, any of that emotion. Just like you're reading this slide for the first time, if you get in front of a client and it's the first time that number comes out of your mouth, it's the first time you've ever physically said the number, it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like a poorly rehearsed, scene from a movie, and you can tell. So what I would suggest is that whatever your fee is, spend some time practicing it, in the shower, going on a walk, in front of the mirror. Just get comfortable saying the number, and you want to kind of take any of the emotional charge out of that number. So there's that piece. Now, how do you set your fee? There's a few different kind of concepts here that I want to kind of run through, and I want to try to do this pretty briefly so that we have plenty of time for Q&A. There's no right way to do it. There's a few frameworks, though. One is you can set your fee based on a competitive model, a financial-based model, or a value-based model. The competitive model is to say, look, what is my competition doing? What are other coaches charging? I'm going to then pick something in that range. And that's fine. That's nothing wrong with that, because there are benchmarks out there. The other model is to say, financially, what number do I need to charge in order to meet my financial goals for my business and my life? That's a very important number to know. And then the third model that I like is a value-based approach, which is I want to understand the value of the change that I'm helping my client to make to their life, to their business, to their relationships, to their health, whatever I'm working on, and that the fee then represents a fair exchange for that. And hopefully that the value-based fee is greater than or equal to the financial-based fee. In other words, I know what I need to charge in order to live the way that I want to live. That would be like the minimum I need to be charging. But I also would like to be charging more than that if it's appropriate. And for example, I know how much I need to make to live my life the way I want to live. But I just met this morning with a client who's the CEO of a big company. If I only charged him based on that number, it would actually be too small because he wouldn't take it seriously. So there needs to be, the value actually needs to reflect the value to the client and the commitment of the client in order to get the benefit from the work. So it's important to go through a process of thinking about your fee and understanding, where are you coming from in terms of setting your fee? The other thing to think about in terms of setting your fee is to make sure that it fits your life in terms of your capacity. So I have a few clients coming in for a 3-day intensive this weekend, and they're all small business owner, consultant coaches. And we're going through a 3-part kind of framework: personal, professional, financial success, to make sure that their fees and their capacity and their time make sense. So what does that mean? It means you need to know professionally the kind of impact you want to have and who you want to work with. You need to know financially what your income needs are. And then personally, you need to know what your time requirements are so that you can do the things that you want to do in your life. And so, coaching allows you to have a very flexible lifestyle and to design your life in a way that, you can make as much money as you want in a working, you just need to do the math of if you want to work 4 days a week or 5 days a week or 3 days a week, but you need to know if my income requirement is X and my time desire is Y, the math just needs to work. So there's a process of setting your fee and understanding in your own mind what you want to be charging. Now, here's where practicing your fee becomes really, this is where the real opportunity is. Once you know what your fee is from your perspective, you need to kind of put that in the back of your mind and put all of your communication around the value to your client. And I'll give you a few examples, but it's, and let me just start with the biggest mistake that I see coaches make regarding their fees. If you ask many coaches, what do you charge? They will answer with, I charge X for Y months. In other words, they'll say, I charge $10,000 for 6 months of coaching, or $25,000 for a year of coaching, or whatever the number is and whatever the length of time is. And it's important to understand that, but from the client's perspective, when the client hears that, what are they thinking in their mind? They're thinking, what does that number and term have to do with me and my problem or my goal? And the answer is they don't know. They have no idea what your length of your coaching engagement has to do with anything. And so what I would encourage you to do is to think more about the outcomes that you're working on with your client, the time frame necessary to achieve those outcomes, and then present your coaching relative to the value of those outcomes and what is necessary to achieve those outcomes. Let me give you a hypothetical example. Suppose you went to a surgeon and you talk to the surgeon and you need surgery, and you say, well, okay, doc, how much do you charge for surgery? And the surgeon says, well, I charge $10,000 for 4 hours of surgery. How would you react to that framing of their fee? It seems a little bit bizarre, because I'm thinking as the patient, well, what does 4 hours? I don't want to pay for surgery by the hour, right? That seems a little bit sketchy to me. I just want to be in and out as fast as possible, but don't screw anything up, and make sure you don't leave anything inside me that's not supposed to be there, And so what I want you to do as the surgeon is do a very thorough, professional, high quality job as quickly and as efficiently as possible so that I can get on with my life. Right? And so think about it instead if the surgeon said this, well, based on your situation, I'm going to have you come in for pre-op at 7 a.m. We have the operating room booked for the entire morning from like 8 until noon. This surgery typically takes about 2 hours. I've done, dozens of these, and it generally takes 2 hours, but we have the operating room available just in case there's some complication, and we take all the time we need to make sure that everything is done correctly. And, but we'll have you back in recovery, and you'll be on your way, you'll be back on your path to health by the afternoon. Now, and by the way, the fee for that is $10,000 that, is going to help you return to health. The point here is that the time frame is presented in terms of what is necessary to get the outcome, right? So when you're having the conversation with your client, you want to understand what is it that they want to do. Well, if you're coaching a business owner on sales performance for their business, you might say to them, well, look, to really turn around your sales efforts, and this, you might have prior experience in this, for example, it generally takes about 18 months to really do a complete turnaround of a sales organization. And what I would suggest we start with is a 6-month assessment phase to really understand the talent that you have on your sales team, and to help you as the leader get really clear on who you want on your team and who you need to replace. And then we're going to go into like a training phase. And then we're going to go into like an integration phase so that they're really starting to kind of hit their numbers consistently. Now, like, I'm making up a bunch of stuff there, but the idea now is I'm framing that in terms of, okay, you want to increase your sales. In order to do that, you need to transform your sales team. That's going to take 18 months in a few phases. So what I would like to start with is an initial 6-month phase where I'm going to help you, and my fee for that is going to be $50,000, whatever you choose. The point here is that I didn't say to him, I charge $50,000 for 6 months of coaching. I'm saying I'm going to help you identify the key. I'm going to help you as the client. You're going to do the work to identify the talent needs on your sales team over the next 6 months. That's then going to lead to the next thing. You can do the same exact thing with health or fitness or nutrition or relationships, right? One of my clients right now is coaching an executive woman who is in a very challenging period in her marriage. She's not sure whether she wants to stay married or not. Well, the coaching relationship is framed in terms of this woman wants to be happy in her life. She wants to have a good relationship in her life. She cares about her children. She cares about her career, and her marriage right now is not supporting that. Well, part of the way that, so instead of saying, well, I'll coach you for a year for X amount, or for 3 months for X amount, the way she now framed it based on this approach is, okay, look, you're going through a very challenging time. Do you believe that you can get to a better place in your life? Yes. Okay, but that's going to require that you go through certain decisions and transitions. The first one is to really seriously decide, do you want to stay in the marriage or not? Do you want to put in the work? And if you do, I'll help you work on the relationship so that you can improve that, because she has relationship expertise, right? And if not, I'll help you make decisions about what you want to do and what your alternatives are, right? So, so why don't we start with focusing on the next 6 months around you being very, very intentional in your own marriage and family around doing everything you can to make those relationships work. And my fee for that is X. And here's what our work is going to look like. So do you see how presenting it that way is very, very different than just saying my fee is X amount of money for a certain term? The principle behind all of that is fundamentally client leadership. Clients are not looking for a coach, they're looking for leadership. And I didn't get this until I'd been a coach for about 5 or 6 years. And I was coaching a CEO, and I went into his office one day. I'd been working with him for about almost a year, and he asked me, he had an organizational problem, and I did all the things that I learned in coaching school that I was supposed to do. I asked him questions. I asked about his, inner wisdom and blah, 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 right? But he got very, very frustrated and said, look, I'm looking for you to lead this. And in that moment, I realized, wait a minute, here's a guy who is the leader to thousands of people, but in this moment, he's looking for me to lead him. So like that paradigm shift of how I think about myself kind of is at the heart of all this, where, you want to be thinking about the entire conversation as you are leading your client to help them create the life or the outcomes that they want. And then your fee is presented in context of what that work involves, right? So I'm going to pause on that. And I think that's kind of the main things I wanted to kind of introduce. At this point, I just want to make sure we have lots of time for questions. So let me open it up, or however you want to handle it, Dermot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ron. Wow. I love having these guest teachers because I'm learning so much. Wow. I love the analogy of the surgeon. I'll give you 4 hours of surgery for this. Well, what if it takes 5? Sorry. Love it. All right, class. Ron is now yours. You may ask whatever you like. Don't be shy.
Can I ask a question? I'll start.
Sure,
okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, Ron. Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
And guys, if you could tell Ron your name, that might be a little helpful.
That would help. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, sorry about that, Ron. My name is Jasmine. I'm phoning in from Vancouver, Canada. Question around the very good training that I really appreciate, talking about values and how to share that with our clients. What about when clients are coming to us and they just want to know the fee? Like, how much does it cost? Maybe you haven't even done a lot of coaching with them, but they want to sort of figure out what that fee is first before they even want to move forward. How do you sort of work through that without being evasive?
I tell them, has this happened to you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, my answer is, I don't know what the fee is. And in my case, I really don't, because I make it up. I don't really know what fee I will offer you until I talk to you about what outcomes that you want, what challenges that you're having. And until I know like what that's going to require, I can't tell you what the fee is. Right. But the biggest way to get at that is to bring it into the now. Right. So the first thing is I tell them, look, I really don't know. And then they'll say, well, can you just give me a range? And I'll say, no, I really don't know until I talk to you. But why are you looking for this information right now? Well, what do you mean? Well, why are you interested in this information at this moment? Like, what's going on that you need to find this out right now? Because I want to get them out of their quest for information and into their problem, like what is actually happening, right? And there's a very, very subtle thing that happens. This is a little bit, I wouldn't say advanced, but there's a very big difference between deciding to solve a problem and deciding to get information about a problem. And so the moment you give someone the fee, it satisfies this like part of their brain that's seeking information, and they think they've done something about the problem when they actually haven't. And they think, oh yeah, so, I don't really, what I'm more interested in is what is going on for you right now, and have you made a decision to make a change? What is the change that you want to make in your life or your business or whatever? And why do you want to make that right now? And I'll give you a very specific, the same woman I was referring to a moment ago about the relationship issue. This executive sent a text message to my client who was a coach. And my client forwarded me the text thread and the text message said, hey, I think I need a session with you, a session. And I wanted just to see if I could schedule it and find out what your fee is. Right? And so my client says, well, what do I say in response? And I look at the text message thread, and what was the timestamp on her message from the text message? It was 8:30 on a Saturday night. So I said, my very first question to this client is, what is going on in your life that you texted me at 8:30 on a Saturday night, urgently requesting a coaching session? Because someone, like, I don't know about you, but like a Saturday night, like I'm with my family, I'm watching sports, I'm watching a movie, like I am not seeking professional help on something unless there is a very big problem. So I want to know what that is and then shift the conversation. And if the person insists on knowing your fee, I just say, look, I can't really engage with you until until I know. Is it worth it to you to talk about it? That's how I would handle it.
It's perfect. Thanks, Ron. It's really good.
You're welcome.
Hi, Ron. This is Maria. I have another question in reaction to what you just said with Jasmine. So you said that you're kind of making up your fee depending on the client's problem. So it's sort of tailor-made. How do you then, how do we get to practice your first advice, which is practice your fee in advance?
Yeah. That's a great question. And it leads to another point that I wanted to make. It depends on kind of where you are in your development as a coach, particularly around your sales and enrollment skills. And also kind of the design of your practice based on who you're working with. Those are two parameters. Let me address the second part first. I work with businesses of all different sizes. I mean, like the client that I was telling you about is a brand new, it's a consultant with about, under 6 figures in revenue, small business, very, very small business. The client I met with this morning runs a $3 billion company, right? I consider both of those people to be CEOs. And I would treat them as such because they're both, entrepreneurial people. But the value to those individuals is just very, very different in terms of monetary value. And I work with clients everywhere in between, different sizes of business. So my fee kind of scales based on the size of the business. So until I know how big the business is or what your goals are, I kind of calibrate the fee based on that. But to go back to the first part, if you are relatively new to enrolling clients, what I would recommend is that you pick a fee to start with and that you make that your fee, right? And the reason why is that sales and enrollment conversations they're very demanding. Like there's a lot of things going on to master that skill of enrollment. And what I want to do is eliminate pricing and fees as a variable. I don't want you worrying about all the questions you're asking in the enrollment and also worrying about what your fee is going to be. I would rather you think, oh, my fee is going to be this. This is what I'm starting with. And when we get to that point, and if I make them an offer, that's what my fee is going to be, so that I can now focus on asking questions, being very present to them and listening, and I don't want my mind worried about the fee. Okay. Now, does that make sense? Okay. Now, the other way I handle this is and I don't know if you all, I do not, in the way I work, I don't really do enrollment conversations in one call. Now, there are some people that sell coaching in one call. And if you have a very defined program, that might work. Or if you're selling somebody into a seminar or a training that's very much, defined, like you're not trying to establish a coaching relationship. You're just trying to see if they want to come to your seminar. Like that could be a short conversation, right? But if you're thinking about coaching someone, in a more intimate relationship, I set it up like this. Hey, let's have a conversation. I want to figure out what's going on and to see if I can help you. And just so you know, I'm not going to make any offer to you on this first conversation. We're not going to talk about money. We're not going to talk about what that investment is, because I don't know yet. What I like to do is talk to you, listen, figure out what's going on. At the end of the call, we'll decide if we want to explore it further, and we'll schedule a follow-up call within a week. I don't want it to go on too long, but generally within a couple of days, no more than a week. And what I like to do in that time is think about what you told me and then come back to you and explore what would make the most sense for you. I do that because then I realized earlier on in my career that I was kind of buying into somebody else's idea that you have to enroll someone in one call. Well, that's a rule that somebody else made up, but that doesn't really work for me. And I find that like a structured enrollment process that takes 2, maybe 3 calls gets to a much, much higher quality an offer. I mean, I met with a CEO 4 separate times in the month of September and then proposed to him a 4-phased coaching arrangement that would, be broken up into different phases and different fees it took me 3 conversations to really understand what his true challenges were. Like the first conversation was just general, and then the next one got even more, specific. And it was very valuable to him too, because I was making him clarify, like, okay, what's most important? Like, how do we prioritize this? Where are your real issues? And by the time I made the proposal, it was so solid because I had spent all that time to really like listen and craft it. So a longer answer to your question, but there's, a couple different approaches that you can apply.
Great. Thank you so much, Ron. Very useful.
Who else? Great conversations. Oh my gosh. Just wonderful. Just wonderful. I'm still thinking about the surgeon, Ron.
Yeah.
Like if he does 4 hours of surgery and there's 5 hours of surgery needed, is he going to wake up the patient? All right. That's where my mind goes. All right. Who else has not asked a question or would like to ask Ron a question? And the floor is open. You can ask him anything about anything within reason.
Yeah. Anything you want.
Yeah.
Or without reason. That's fine. Whatever you want.
Nicholas has his hand
I wouldn't
up
say
there.
that about these group here. They could go anywhere.
I'll roll with it.
Hey, Ron. Nicholas from Toronto here.
Hey, Nicholas.
Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time. I was hoping you might be able to speak about, as it relates to fees and packages, but you mentioned something that really caught my ear, which was in and around client leadership and leadership in general as it relates to what we're talking about today. So if I kind of wrap it up, how do we bring leadership to the call, and what are some different aspects maybe you could speak to?
Yeah. That's a great question. The first fundamental, paradigm, the first most fundamental idea, and is that you make a decision that your core identity is that you're a leader. You're not a coach. You may do coaching, but you have to think of yourself at a core level of, I am a leader to my clients. And coaching or teaching or training, like, those are vehicles. But as a leader, I recognize that, that's something different. It's a different sort of responsibility in a way, right? And that carries out through everything that I do with my clients, all through the whole process, right? And then when you specifically apply that to the enrollment and fee process, I now need to be leading that conversation. So if you go back to the surgeon example, if you go to the surgeon and you have a pain and you go in and you meet with a surgeon and you show up and you show up in their office and the surgeon says, "Hey, what's going on? Hey, Nicholas, what do you want to talk about, man? What's going on? Tell me how," you would be like, what is this person doing? Like, do they have any, your confidence in them would
dwindle away.
It would go away. And I think we learn in coaching that we very much want it to be client centered, but we also need to lead that, because we need to provide some structure to that. So, it's I think of it this way, that regardless of your subject matter, whether you're coaching people around fitness or relationships or business or whatever, the motivating desire or need that any client has is that they want to change something. And so I think of what we're doing is we're leading a client first. If we're going to coach someone, we're leading them through a process of change, constructive, positive change. But the enrollment process is actually leading them through a decision about whether or not to make that change, and whether or not and to engage support in that kind of change. Right? And so I want to be thinking them through. I want to help lead them through a thought process of, what is it that I really want to change, and are you prepared to make that change in your life, and what's that going to take, and are you really committed to that? And based on that, do you want my support? Okay, if you do, then here's what that looks like, right? So I want to lay out lay out something so that they know what they're signing up for. Because if I don't do that, then it's gonna fail, right? Because they're not, at least in my experience, when I haven't done that, it's been more failure prone.
Got it. Thanks for that. I feel like there's another question coming down the pipes right now. It just hasn't formulated.
Yeah, let me give you an example while that's formulating. In a different context. So I teach jujitsu, and if you are a beginner and you'd never studied martial arts before, and you came to me and you said, "Hey, Ron, I want to learn jujitsu," I would say, "Cool. Why do you want to learn that?" And I would want to understand, why now? Why do you want to study jujitsu now? Because do you want self-defense or confidence, or what are your goals? But then I would tell you, look, jujitsu is a long journey. It takes 10 years to become a black belt, if that's something that you care about. But if you just wanted to learn the basic self-defense, I can teach that to you. I have a curriculum for that, and it takes about a year to 18 months to complete.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of that year to 18 months, you will have tremendous confidence that you could survive a street fight of someone attacking you. Now, in order to do that, it would require that you come to class 3 times a week, consistently. So if you really want that self-confidence that comes from mastering that, and you're willing to put in that effort, I would now be willing to take you on as a student. Are you ready to make that kind of commitment? So what am I doing in framing it that way? I'm, one, connecting your goal to like what you want. I'm laying out a time frame. I'm laying out requirements. And now I'm asking you if you're willing to make that kind of commitment. And this is very, very different from this distinction is, as a leader, is very important. Oftentimes what a coach will do is say, when you sign up for my coaching program, here's what you get. You get 2 calls a month and a group call and email access. You get all this stuff. That's completely wrong. The leader says, in order to get this outcome that you want in your life, based on my experience, here is what I require of you. Are you willing to do that? And I recently offered a 6-month, I recently designed a 6-month program to a group of entrepreneurs. And it was based on them achieving some sales growth. And I laid it out and I said, look, in order to do this, here's what I'm going to require that you do. I'm going to require that you go through this initial training period with me, that you submit a weekly pipeline report of your sales activity, I laid out certain things. And one person wrote back and said, well, I don't really think that I need to do that weekly sales thing. And I said, great, don't work with me. Like, because as the leader, like, I get that we want to co-create things with our clients and we want to engage them in the process. But at some point, we want to recognize that they have a problem that they don't know how to solve. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking to you. And because they're in the problem, they don't really know what's necessary to actually solve it. They're not prepared. They're not actually qualified to make their own prescription in a way, right? It's like it would be like you telling a surgeon, like, well, doc, I don't think you need to do this incision. I think you need to do something else. Well, like, did you go to medical school? Totally. Go treat yourself if you want. But if you want me, this is what I'm going to require. So.
It's such an interesting topic right now, this piece here in and around leadership and leading the conversation. It's something that actually I'm working on, Ron, in my own life right now. And just a quick answer to your jiu-jitsu, I'd keep it on the feet because I'm certainly not getting on the ground with you in terms of a fight.
Yeah.
You're talking about your jiu-jitsu there?
Yeah, you'd keep it on your feet. Why? I
keep stand up because I know that you're dangerous on the ground. Although I'm pretty sure you're dangerous standing up too.
Yeah, well, that's why we take you down. So,
anyways, just a little plan here with you, but
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, just the leadership piece in terms of finding our own leadership. I mean, ultimately, as coach, people are looking to us not only to be coach, but also to lead the processes, which is what I'm hearing.
Right.
As a sort of a general sort of broad angle on it. And that includes leading the conversation in the enrollment process.
Correct.
And so thanks for sharing that piece. Is there anything that you might, when you look back at your own experience in terms of learning that leadership piece for you, is there anything that you might point towards that might support us in finding our own leadership in and around the enrollment?
Well, yeah, that's good. I think part of that is to recognize that you are a leader and that you're not here to lead everyone. not everyone is you're not here to serve everyone, and also not in all circumstances. And the analogy I would use there is I worked with, dozens of CEOs, and CEOs have a definite, like most of my CEO clients have a definite leadership profile in terms of the size and stage of company that they like to lead. Like one of my clients is a serial entrepreneur. He's great at taking a company from an idea to the first 10 million in sales, and like building the team and validating the product. And then he's like, he's not interested in like ongoing operations or anything bigger than that. So he'll get out and then he'll go on and do something else. I have another client who runs very, very large scale companies that need like turnarounds. So just because you have the title of CEO doesn't mean that like, every company and every situation is for you. Well, coaching is the same thing. Like, even if you have a niche of like a certain type of person, if they're not in you might have a certain type of person in a particular stage and like with certain qualities. And in that scenario, you can lead them through some change that they want to make. Like, it's like figuring out like, what are the circumstances and situations and scenarios where you lead very, very powerfully, and seek those opportunities, and then recognize other ones that are not really in that. They're not really in that. If they don't really fit that may not be like your highest contribution as a leader.
Yeah, and what I think I hear in that, and correct me if I'm off on this, Ron, is that not everybody are going to be my people.
Totally. Yeah. I mean,
I to distinguish that, and to know that sometimes it's not, you're not going to be able to lead everyone.
No, I mean, one of my own examples is, to me, it doesn't really matter the size of your business, but what I am interested in is your desire for growth. And if you're coming to me and you're looking for like incremental growth, I'm not the person for you. Because like you can kind of get that with just sort of optimizing what you're doing and tweaking what you're doing. And like there are people out there that are really good performance coaches that will help you, get disciplined and accountable, and like, and that's great. And like there's definitely a place for that. I play more where like you want to go to a new level entirely, and you don't even imagine, like you can't even really see it yet. And so there's this sort of adventure and unknown that, you're ready for. And if you're not ready for that, like, I get that. Like not everyone wants that at a particular point in their life. And there are times in your life where you want that, and there are times in your life when you don't. But if you are coming to me, you've got to be like kind of hungry for that, and look a little bit, it's kind of like, the analogy I use is like, Luke Skywalker goes to train with Yoda. He doesn't really know what he's getting himself into, right? But he goes anyways. Like he has to go. Well, like I've had other clients say, well, what exactly are you going to do? Like what exactly is the program? And I'm like, I don't really know yet until we get going. And if they need an extreme amount of specificity, I'll just tell them like, look, you're looking for too much. I can't give you that until we go. So it's just understanding yourself and what excites you and where you have the most fun, and like lining that up.
That's awesome. Thanks, Ron. And I'll pass the floor over to somebody else so I don't monopolize you.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes here, I think. So.
Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, we have 6 minutes, guys. So what I'd like to do is have one more brief question, have Ron answer it. And then, Ron, I'd just like to invite you after that question just to sum up whatever it is. What would be the essence of what you would like the students to take away from our talk today? And then, of course, if the students are interested in connecting with you or finding out more about what you do, and I know you have programs and stuff, feel free to give us a website or an email. So anyone with a brief question for Ron? Who's not had a chance? Chris.
Oh, shoot.
You're good, Chris. We can hear you.
Oh, I'm good. Okay. Hi, Ron. It's Chris from Toronto. So my question is, so for me, I'm trying to build a brand new coaching business. So I kind of have the day job there, and I'm sort of in the process where I'm practicing my coaching and building my coaching skills as well. Is there a right sort of starting point as a fee for that? Like, is there any guideline? Like, I heard guideline. Okay, well, you start by charging $500 for a month or something like that. Do you think that there's a right guideline for that?
Yeah, I do. And Hannah, you're raising your hand too. Do you have a question too? Well, I'll see if I can get it. My answer is unconventional, which is, I think one of the biggest myths in coaching is that your value as a coach is based on your tenure as a coach. I think that's the biggest load of garbage ever. Because, I don't know, how old are you, sir? 30?
49, yeah.
Okay. So, you have life, all of you are coming into coaching with a lot of life experience in this lifetime and maybe past lives if you're into that. But you're coming in, there's like a whole bunch of accumulated knowledge, wisdom, experience, expertise that you're bringing to your clients. And, to now say, well, just because I'm a new coach, I need to charge like $500, like that to me is ridiculous, because you need, like, that will just, there's nothing wrong with that if you want to get practice. But to me, the much bolder, more exciting thing is to say, look, what is the total value that I'm bringing to someone right now? Because if they're not paying for that, they're not going to actually receive it, and they're not going to get the result. So I want to I have a client who's running a huge company. If he decided to retire as a CEO and become a coach, would he charge $500? No, he would charge millions based on what he knows and how to help, mentor and coach, another CEO. So you want to think about all of the skills and talents that you're now like focusing into that coaching interaction and what that helps your client accomplish in their life. And I think, just make a decision, take a stand that that's what your fee is going to be based on. Like the number can vary, but that's who you're going to be.
Yeah.
And don't apologize that you're a new coach. Just say, no, like, this is a new skill I'm adding to all the other skills I already have. That's my view.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris. Hannah, we have 3 minutes, and I want to honor Ron's time. Do you have a quick question? Hannah, do you have a quick question?
Yes. So just the quick question was, if the fee is the only objection at the end, which of course it's not, but what would your response be, Ron?
Okay. Yeah, that we didn't get into objections, but in my experience, this is why I like to lay out requirements, is that the fee is really only part of the client's commitment to the result. They have to invest their money and their time and their energy and their own commitment to actually changing their life. So, I think the bigger question always to come back to is, are they committed to making that change, right? If the objection is around money, sometimes it is, and sometimes it's important to understand why and what their concern is, and whether or not you've really understood the value properly. That's a much bigger topic that I want to explore. I will say this though, and that my experience with objections in coaching is that they're rarely around money. The biggest, this will blow your mind, and you can explore this later, but in my experience, the biggest objections that you encounter in coaching is the very issue that the client most needs to transform. So for example, let's suppose you get brought in to like coach a manager who is, having problems because they're a control freak. And like they're micromanaging their people and they're about to get fired because they have this control freak personality, micromanagement personality. And you get if I were going to coach that person, I would say, you need to sign up. Here's what you need to sign up. And as soon as you sign up, then I'll tell you what we're going to do. And they would object and they would say, well, no, I need to know exactly what your process is. I need to know specifically how many calls. I need to know exactly what assessments you're going to use. And I would say to them, well, actually you don't, because the very thing you're here about is letting go of your need to control things, right? And whether it's time or money or control, like my experience is the objections are always much more around the ego in the psyche. Like there's something that they're afraid of, like they're trying to hang on to that they actually need to surrender. And money will sometimes be the socially acceptable kind of way of getting out of that. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but that was...
It's a big topic, yeah.
Yeah, it is a big topic.
Thank you, Ron.
Yep.
Ron, would you take a minute and just kind of sum up what you'd like people to take from our chat? And then also, Mary Ellen, Ron's going to share an email or a way to contact him if you'd like to discuss it further. Mary Ellen, just put it in the chat box for everyone.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can do that too. I'll just put, if you want to reach out to me, my email is ron@alignedaction. And just let me know just remind me that this is where we met. And I'm happy to kind of follow up if you want to have a question. To me, the thing is, to me, the important thing about the fee is that it is like all of your enrollment conversations do ultimately lead to a moment of truth where you make an offer to a client that includes a fee, and then they basically say yes or no to that. And so getting comfortable with that exchange is very, very important, and the more you're comfortable, this is like jujitsu, like the more you're comfortable with that interaction, then the easier it is to deal with the other parts of the business. And the thing I would leave you with is this: the reason why it's so critically important to practice your fee and practice, I don't mean just rehearse, but state a fee make someone an offer. Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no. The more you do that, the better you will and stronger you will become as a coach. Because a lot of marketing is actually avoidance of that moment. A lot of like marketing for coaches is about funnels and webinars and guides and checklists and all of the things that avoid actually having to say, here's my fee, would you like to work with me? Right? Because by saying that, I do have to risk rejection, but you're not rejecting me. You're only rejecting either my offer, which is not me, or you're just deciding that is not valuable to you. So, and I can work with that and come up with something else. So my view is practice that, like get real practice with that experience. And like that is essential to your growth as a coach. And it was the thing that almost sunk me when I first started my business. But if you think about this, like if people are employees, the only time they ever really ask for a fee is when they're negotiating their salary at the time they accept a job. And then they only quote unquote negotiate their fee again if they ask for a raise maybe every 3 years. So people have no muscle built up around asking for money. But if you're talking to clients and offering to help them, thinking about how can I help this person? What can I offer them? Making them an offer, asking for a fee, you'll build that muscle. And then it takes a lot of the fear out of this whole business, and then you can get to work actually helping them. Because if they're not paying a fee, they're not actually like receiving what you can offer them.
Ron, thank you so much. Just incredible. If you want to connect with Ron a little bit more, you can go to ron@alignedaction.com. You can email him. Take yourself off mute, everyone, before we go for a break, and just say thank you to Ron. Thank you, Ron, from Dermot.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks very much, Ron.
Ron, thank you so much.
Amazing.
Take care.
Wishing you well, Ron. All the best. I'll be in contact after the class, Ron. I'll send you a little email.
Very good. Thanks, Dermot.
All the best.